funny this book is.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I'm joined today once again by my mother for Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, yes.
We both read biographies, but as I've established before on this channel, my mother reads a lot more nonfiction than I do. So I thought it's no longer People April, sorry Roz, but this is a wonderful tag. So I thought I would save it till now and interview my mother as to the kinds of biographies she looks for and what she looks for in a biography.
Okay.
So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first this or that is, do you want big, fat, and detailed biographies or short and succinct ones?
Oh, big, fat, and chunky every time. I read this so long ago. Peter the Great by Robert Massie, who we have established, thank you, is one of my very favorite biographers. This was amazing. God, I read it ages ago. Maybe I have to revisit it. Anyway, I really, really liked it. The detail of that time period of enormous change in Russia, you know, trying to drag the whole country kicking and screaming into whatever century it was. I don't remember, but anyway,
18th, wasn't it?
18th probably. And he was not only physically a very imposing man, but his ideas were amazing. I mean, basically, I think Leningrad was created, well, St. Petersburg, excuse me, I keep forgetting we're back to St. Petersburg, named after him, of course, but it was basically swamp, and he created this amazing city. He visited other places and hired people that knew what they were doing and brought new life to a very insular country. And not everybody liked it, but I thought he was interesting. Would I have wanted him over for dinner? Probably not. But still, a very interesting person, and it was a really great book. I enjoyed it very much.
All right. So next question. Excuse me while I look at these. Celebrity memoirs or average Joe memoirs?
I do tend to read more celebrity memoirs than I do average Joe memoirs. So for this one, we have two. Here we go. Okay, we'll go with average Joe first. A while back, everybody was talking about Captain Tom, and he was lovely. He has led a really, really interesting life, and he's the one that during the lockdown raised a great deal of money for the National Health Services in England by walking with his walker up and down his driveway. One of his grandchildren said, "Hey, Grandpa, you know, we'll sponsor you," because he had fallen and broken his hip and he needed some exercise. And they thought they would offer him a challenge to have him exercise more. And somebody put it on, I don't know if it was Facebook, but people started pledging money. And he didn't want, you know, and the money should all go to the National Health Service. And that was his idea, was to raise money for them because he said he got such fabulous care. And he wanted to return the favor. And I thought that was really very sweet, how an ordinary and quite an old gentleman made an enormous difference. I thought that was really very nice. And we heard him interviewed, was he on the Paul Grady show or
Michael Ball.
The Michael
he was on
Ball
Michael Ball
show.
a couple of times.
And he just sounded like such a sweet man, and he led quite an interesting life. And so it was a good book, and I really enjoyed it. And then Gossipy, and, well, not really Gossipy,
Well,
but
no, celebrity.
Celebrity. It's no secret. I love Paul O'Grady. May he rest in peace. I miss him so much. But he has, I think, 4 books made up his whole biography. And he was younger than me, the poor soul. He was 63, I think, when he passed. But this is the first one about his life growing up in Birkenhead, which is kind of a suburb of Liverpool. And not celebrity gossip necessarily, but gossipy about the neighbors, his relatives, the people he met, the kids he knew at school, all of the crazy situations that he got himself in. He's exhausting. He really is exhausting. But this is my favorite of the 4. The last one was pretty good too. That got more into his very successful time period of his, you know, his morning talk shows and his time with For the Love of Dogs and other things, other more conventional types of show business. This is about him growing up. And if may I look at this for a minute? So I'm not sure if this goes up to when he worked for the social services. I don't know.
Because I did
Maybe
read this
not.
one, but I don't remember either.
I don't think so. No, this is right before. But anyway, he led quite a life, and I loved him to pieces. And this was funny. He came from a very funny family, and it's kind of gossipy, and not everybody in his family was happy that he published it. But it's worth a read. I really think it's worth a read. So it's Paulo Grady, At My Mother's Knee and Other Low Places. I'd highly recommend this one.
All right, next question. Complete correspondence or selected letters?
I don't read a lot of either one. If I had the choice, I would say selected, just because I don't need to know absolutely everything. But by the same token, I don't read a lot. The only thing that kind of comes close, and it's only a sort of, this alludes to letters, because of course this is Abigail Adams. It's all about Abigail Adams. It's called Dearest Friend, and it's about the correspondence that Abigail had with John throughout their married life. And he traveled quite a bit. She was by herself quite a bit. So there were a lot of letters, but it's not technically letters. It's about their lives and about the letters. And truthfully, I think that's really all I need most of the time. It's a really good book. I haven't read in ages, but I really like her. I think she's very interesting. So I'd recommend this one too. Who's the author? Can't remember.
Lynn Withy.
Okay. I don't think I've ever read anything else by her, but it was a very good book and I enjoyed it.
I feel like there are other books as well that have their letters side by side.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
follow.
I just haven't gotten round to them yet.
All right, question 4. Memoirs written when the events are fresh or memoirs written in hindsight?
I couldn't find a good example, and neither could I think of one, but I think hindsight is a little better, especially with something kind of monumental. Sometimes it's good to let a little time pass, think about it, and then talk about it. I guess there are, you can make a case for both, but I think I would prefer to have a little time in between the event and then the printed word. Just my opinion.
All right, number 5. Gossipy biographies or scholarly biographies?
I like them both. You want to talk about gossipy. This is My Wicked, Wicked Ways by Errol Flynn. 50 years he was on this earth, and my goodness what he packed into it. And this book tells it all. He holds nothing back. His stories about John Barrymore are worth it alone. Now I would have Errol Flynn for dinner. I wouldn't have had John Barrymore for dinner. He does not sound like a nice person. Errol Flynn I would have had for dinner. I had to lock up the scotch, but it'd be okay. I think he'd be very interesting to have for dinner. And this is very gossipy, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, for all that he led a very dissolute life, but it's what he wanted. So, you make your choices. And then a friend of his, David Niven, this is Bring on the Empty Horses, and this is very gossipy about his time in Hollywood. And it's wonderful, and it's light, and it's sweet. This is a little sweeter, because I think he was a slightly sweeter person. Of course, he and Errol Flynn were friends, and they were roommates, and they did have a very good time together. But I like David Niven. I would have him over for dinner, absolutely. This was a fun book. We can talk about scholarly later on. I've got more scholarly coming.
You do have plenty of those.
I have plenty of scholarly.
All right, Diaries of Ordinary Life or Diaries of Extraordinary Events? Or a combination?
Well, again, I've got Captain Tom down because that was an extraordinary life. I think definitely an extraordinary life. I have a fascination. I have many fascinations, but this is a fascinating life. This is Winston Churchill by Martin Gilbert. I love Martin Gilbert. I think he's another really good historian. Everyone thinks of Winston Churchill as, for his time during the Second World War, which was certainly, the zenith of his political career. It was, it was amazing. But he was a product of the Victorian age, and watching him grow and develop in his time during, when he first entered politics and the causes that he supported, and his time as the First Lord of the Admiralty, and all of the people that he met coming up and the decisions that he made, and some of them were quite audacious. He was not afraid to make a mistake. He was not afraid to try something, which is really very interesting. And now that I think about it, I probably should have brought up that big biography I have of Harry Truman, because Harry Truman was another one that was not afraid to try something. And if it didn't work, well, all right, we tried it, let's try something else. Rather than just stay in one place and fret, they were willing to give something a go. And they didn't mind trying something that was a little the left of center, a little audacious, a little different. They thought outside the box. As much as I don't like that phrase, it does fit. And this is a doorstop. It is a very large book, which is why I read it and I go back to it and I read it and I go back to it. But he is amazing. Is he always right? No. Was he always somebody but I definitely would have wanted him over for dinner. I really do, with the windows open because of the cigar. But I really, really would have loved to talk to him. He was a raconteur. He liked to talk about things, and nothing was forbidden. You could talk about anything. He was also an artist. He was really the whole package. I really enjoyed. I feel like as I read this book, and I think some of it is Martin Gilbert's skill, but I feel like I've really gotten to know him. I like this book, and I would highly recommend it.
So then, arty memoirs or sporting memoirs?
Well, not sporting. We tend not to read sporting anything. We are English Premier League soccer supporters, but I don't really care. Beyond that, I don't really mind. This, however, we love Judi Dench in this house, and this is her most recent, and I love the title, and I think her husband was responsible for it. Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent, because that's how they made their living initially. They worked for Stratford, and they were in every play that they could be in. And this is all about how Shakespeare affected their lives. And it's beautiful. And it's another way to look at Shakespeare. And it's how she interpreted different roles. And, she played them many times and as she got older, she played different roles. It was really interesting, and all the different directors that she worked with and the other actors that she worked with, and the whole thought process of approaching a role and working together as a company. It was wonderful. I just love her. She's wonderful. Definitely a dinner guest. Mm-hmm. Absolutely a dinner guest. Would love her.
Gritty autobiographical writing or inspirational?
I don't know. I like both. I read a book last summer. I'm trying to remember. It was called The Happiest Man on Earth by Eddie Jaku, who was a Holocaust survivor. And so this book is both, because the beginning, of course, is quite gritty. The poor soul survived several concentration camps and a death march, and it was ghastly. And how he survived, nobody knows. But he made the decision that he was going to smile. He had been given the gift of life, and he was going to smile. And it's from that point forward, he meets his wife. They decide they're going to emigrate. They would have gone anywhere, but they were happy to come to the United States. They would have gone to South Africa. They ended up going to Australia. And it sounds like Australia sounded to me, at least from his descriptions, that they were ready to accept all of these people, because he said they were like little villages, and they were given this small house, and he and his wife had 2 small children. And he said they were all together in the same boat, and they drew comfort from that. But then, as they learned the language, found jobs and skills and businesses, and began to make a life for themselves, suddenly they could afford to live somewhere else if they chose to. And he had a very happy and successful life. Married to his wife for 75 years. I think he had a successful chain of auto repair shops. I don't remember, but he had a business that started out with 1 garage, and he built it, and it was wonderful. And he said he had money to take care of his family. He had money to take care of others. And he smiled. Look at my life. I am so lucky. I am the happiest man on earth. And he was 101 when he passed, and I thought, that's really pretty inspirational. I was very impressed with that. It's a book I would recommend, and he looked like a sweet old man. The book needed a little editing. Was it the best written book I've ever read? No, definitely not. But the heck, he was old when he wrote it, and it was beautiful, and I was very happy to read it, and I would recommend it to anyone. It's a quick read, but lovely.
Biographies of historical figures or contemporary figures?
I've read both, and I've liked both, but I think I like historical ones the best. I don't often read about, we're very much Anglophiles in this house, but this book I read in high school, and then I was very happy to find a paperback copy of it. It's funny. It's the autobiography of Will Rogers, who was, I guess, during the Depression in the 30s. He started out a rodeo cowboy, and then he became a comedian, a columnist. He was famous for his no-nonsense, common-sense advice, and just a very funny man who unfortunately passed quite young in a plane accident in Barrow, Alaska, with his pilot, Wiley Post. Why do I remember that? I don't know. But nonetheless, it was quite sad, and the whole country went into mourning. He was well loved coast to coast, and it didn't matter if you were rich or poor, a city person or a farmer. He had the ability to touch everyone. And this was a really nice book, and I was just flipping through it a little while ago and remembering how much I really enjoyed reading about him. He just, again, someone I would definitely have had over for dinner. He wanted you to see that his character was this, folksy cowboy. He was a very intelligent man, and he did not come from poverty. His family had a ranch in Claremore, Oklahoma. He had the opportunities for education, but he preferred the ranching life, and that was his choice. But a very interesting man, and I did enjoy reading this very much. And it's a little different from what I usually talk about. But I have another one. As you can see from the bookmark sticking up, I'm still reading this one. Heather found this book for me. I don't know where you found this book.
Book sale.
Oh, okay. This is another Antonia Fraser because it's been established. She is one of my favorites. And this is about Charles II. And I'm just starting to get into the rebellion and the restoration aspect. I'm very good up to the Tudors. I've not really concentrated on the period after that. Then I start to get better at it once we get to the Regency and the Victorian age. So this is the time period that I don't have a lot of knowledge, and some of the books that I've tried reading I haven't really enjoyed, but this one is really very good, and I'm enjoying it very much. It's your, I don't want to say it's your typical Antonia Fraser, but it is. It's very well done. It's laid out beautifully in a way that you can understand it. I like her writing style, and he's a very interesting person, and I'm really enjoying reading about him. He is, of course, I had a professor in college who, in order to help us remember the succession of the Stuarts, invented the Stuart sandwich. You have James I and James II. They are the bread, because they're the first and the last of the Stuart sandwich. And then Charles I and Charles II, they're the meat, and Cromwell is the mustard in between. So if that helps anyone, it has helped me a great deal. And I have told many a school child this when I've been helping them at the library, and it kind of makes sense. Of course, they're not all of the Stuart sandwich, because there's William and Mary, and then there's Anne, and there are a few others. But this is the very important time period. And I read recently, and I do not remember the title, but it's by Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, who I've read a number of books that he has written, and he's very good. I like him a lot. But he's just written a book, I think recently. It's right. It's new-ish. I don't remember the date. But also about Charles II. And I really liked it. It was wonderful. So now I'm feeling a little more confident about this time period. So when I finish this one, I really need to start reading more about... I need to read about Charles I and James I before we get to Cromwell. This is all, of course, after Cromwell. But this is a really good book, and I'm really enjoying it.
And then finally, memoirs of happy days or memoirs of tragic days?
Again, I couldn't think of an example for this one. I think on the whole, happy days are better, but there is a place for tragedy too. I mean, I don't know. I would have to say I would prefer happy, and I don't know. I don't think I have anything more to add to that because I can't think of a good example. Of course, as soon as she puts this out, I will think of 6, but right now, I'm having a hard time coming up with anything for that one, but I'll let you know.
Well, and I think as well, you're okay with tragic as long as things work out in the end.
Yes, I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I like.
Yeah.
Well,
And it makes it more bearable as
it
well.
does. It does. Well, it's like with the Happiest Man on Earth.
Yeah.
That was the tragedy at the beginning. Is you can't even imagine it. But there is a happy ending, and he does flourish and thrive and live a beautiful life. And triumph over adversity is always a good thing.
So yeah, so thank you for this tag, Roz. It's been
It was
lots of fun.
It was.
And yeah, thank you for
You're
being on my
very
channel
welcome.
yet again.
Okay.
And if you
Always
have
a pleasure.
if you have any questions, or if your answers are different, or if you have recommendations, please
Yes.
let us know in the comments. And until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye, everyone.
Bye.